the best of Money Matters.
Market View on Money FM 89.3.
That's right, you're listening to Money FM 89.3. Time now for Market View with me, Chua Tian Tian. We will take a look at how the Singapore stock market closed for the day, the biggest movers, sectors, and of course the companies to watch. But as usual, a quick recap of how we started. Well, Singapore shares began trading in the red, even though markets abroad finished Friday higher ahead of Donald Trump's inauguration. So in early trade, the Straits Times Index was down 0.3% at 3,799 points after some 25 million securities changed hands in the broader market. We saw the STI closing in the red as well, so let's take you through the closing numbers. So the STI ended down 0.07% at 3,807 points. In terms of value turnover, we are looking at 908 million Sing dollars. Now, gainers outnumbered losers, 303 versus 192. Top advances for today, we've got here New Incorporation USD, GMH USD, and UOB. And top decliners for today, Jardine Cycle and Carriage, DBS, and Linco Trade. In terms of companies to watch, we've got Frasers Property alongside City Developments Limited, because the two property developers as well as Sekisui, they've sold 668 units at the Orie. That is around 86% of units put up for sale, and that's over the launch weekend at an average price of, get this, 2,704 Singapore dollars per square foot. Now, elsewhere, from more on Asian markets reaction before Trump's return to the White House for a second term, to how TikTok started restoring service in the US yesterday, we've got more international and corporate headlines in focus. And joining me on the Monday is Chin Hui Leong, co-founder of The Smart Investor. Chin, welcome.
Hi, Tian Tian. Hi, everyone.
A big day today, and let's start with the US then, Chin. We saw a rally abroad on Friday, the S&P and the Nasdaq up 1% and 1.5% respectively, on the back of this phone call between Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping on Friday. Both sides vowed to improve ties. So how would you read into sentiment on Wall Street ahead of Trump's inauguration?
Well, 1 week ago, we were talking about a strong jobs report and how this was supposed to be somehow interpreted as bad news, because a strong jobs report would mean that interest rate cuts might not be happening so fast, right? And then lo and behold, last Wednesday, inflation numbers came in a bit lighter than expected, and then the stock market went up again, right? So it was down, then up.
Yeah.
And today, last Friday, the call between Trump and Xi Jinping apparently went really well. Mm-hmm. And because of that, apparently the market rose again. So I think at this point, if you're an investor just following all these stock market movements, you are sort of, I hate to say this, but
trying to wrap our heads around it.
Chasing a laser pointer.
Yeah.
Right? It gets a bit tiring, and you should stop doing that and just focus on the business.
Okay. Now, back to the Singapore stock market as usual, Chin. How did the STI fare today? Because the STI was marginally down, bucking that trend we saw in Asia and the US.
Correct.
Any surprises when it comes down to the companies to watch? CDL seeing multiple developments today, but the first development is how its subsidiary plans to acquire all the fully paid ordinary shares in Millennium and Copthorne Hotels New Zealand that it does not already own. Mm-hmm. So how would you read into that as well?
Yep. So just briefly on the STI, it was slightly up, then slightly down. But then if you look under the hood, there has been gains by the REITs in general. And then for the banks, 2 out of 3 of them actually went up. The only exception being DBS. So there's, I think, not too much to read into that. In the case of CDL, I see this move to be more of a housekeeping move, right? Mm-hmm. So it's actually quite a complicated structure, because there's CDL and then CDL Hotel Holdings, or CDLHH, which is trying to buy MCK, which is Millennial and Copthorne Hotels New Zealand. And in turn, Millennial and Copthorne Hotels own CDL Investment New Zealand, which I look at it, it's like a mini CDL in New Zealand, right? So you sort of have 4 layers, and they're trying to remove one of the layers by, sort of incorporating MCK into CDHH, right? And CDL Investments New Zealand will remain listed in the New Zealand Stock Exchange. So pretty much, I think not much to read into that. It's mostly a housekeeping move to reduce the layers from 4 down to 3.
Okay. Now, from CDL, let's take a look at Frasers Property alongside CDL as well, because the property developers and Sekisui, they have sold 668 units at the Orie, which is about 86% of units put up for sale. That is done only over its launch weekend. And if we look at the price that we're looking at over here is an average of 2,704 Sing dollars per square foot. How far is this a surprise to you? And what is the outlook for Singapore property market and consequently the impact on developers listed on the SGX?
I think definitely it's a good result. This is a record high, as I understand it. And in fact, some of the units apparently were sold at 3,000 per square foot, right? And interestingly, 93% of the purchases were done by Singaporeans. So it's very much driven by local demand and not reliant on, foreign investors coming in, right? Secondly, this, I think, overall is a good data point in an environment where there's falling interest rates and people are thinking that, this might help push up prices for property in general. But on the other hand, I think that this may be a sort of rare data point because this is a mature estate. And as I understand it, the last development launch was back in 2016, right? Almost 9 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And back then, the price per square foot was $2,000. So I'm not sure whether this is replicable, and I think more data points are needed before we can say that this is definitely a trend.
Okay. So just for context, the Orie is located in Toa Payoh. I believe just a couple of months ago, we saw a development in Woodlands as well, seeing very high prices there. But if you're just tuning in, when I'm in conversation with Chin Hui Leong, co-founder of The Smart Investor. Well, Chin, let's stay in Singapore. Analysts, they appear to be optimistic on marine stocks listed on the SGX, given how they have been booming over the past year. So we're looking at things like Yangtze Shipbuilding and more. So take, for instance, Yangtze Shipbuilding, seeing nearly 80% increase in share price over the past year. Marco Polo Marine up more than 12%. Seatrium jumped about 52% in the past 6 months. So what are the tailwinds for the sector looking into 2025 then?
I think some context is really important here because I think since 2014 or more than a decade ago, right, it's been tough going for the oil and gas industry or O&G industry, right? I do remember back then the Keppel CEO saying that it's not just going to be a long winter for the oil and gas industry because oil prices just crashed starting from 2014, but it's also going to be harsh winter, right? So a long and harsh winter. And indeed, it took until 2019 before they saw any sort of recovery in oil prices and increase in revenue. But subsequently, this was immediately created by the pandemic, and only in 2023 you see an uptick in revenue. So today, I think that after going through this decade long of very difficult operating conditions, Yangtze has a 22.1 billion backlog, right? And this is spread out between 2024 to 2029. Seatrium has a backlog of close to 38 billion, stretching out beyond 2028 now. So part of it, though, could be cancelled. So I'm not sure how big that amount is, but generally speaking, looking at these numbers and how they're spread out over multiple years, it does seem like the O&G industry is getting a long overdue recovery overall.
Okay. Now, further away, Chin, let's talk about TikTok. TikTok went dark just a couple of days ago. Then it started restoring service in the U.S. yesterday. That's as U.S. President-elect Donald Trump halted enforcement of that law that we talked about and announced that he would give its owners another 3 months to find a buyer. So according to what Trump said in a social media post, he would issue an executive order today to extend the period of time before the law's prohibition take effect. And he added that he would seek a JV under which new U.S.-based owners would purchase 50% of the company. Any guess on the likely outcome of the whole drama?
Well, I mean, like the last 24 hours, I think it just
up and down.
Definition.
Yeah. Drama.
It's just drama, right? It's just on again, off again, on again, off again. So, and the message keeps on changing, right? And you have the likes of Oracle and Google and Facebook, Google and Apple removing it from the App Store. You have Oracle maybe turning off the service and all that. But this drama at this 11th hour is really surprising to me, right? Because this is a bipartisan law which was actually passed in April, right? 9 months ago. And this was unanimous. I mean, I won't call it unanimous, but it was hugely supported by the House and Senate. You're talking about like 80% or more support from both the House and Senate, right? Which is such a rare thing to happen in the U.S. House and Senate nowadays. And it was signed to law by Biden in April. So to have all this 24-hour drama is really surprising to me. And then I think maybe about 2 days ago, they tried to approach the Supreme Court to overturn that law, and they were rejected 9-0. Right? And this is a Supreme Court which has 6 Republicans, which is the party which Donald Trump is for. So, I mean, for me, all this drama is really surprising, given that this idea or this news shouldn't be new. So to have all this drama at the 11th hour it speaks of someone is in denial, basically.
I suppose the question also is, when Trump said that he would seek a JV under which U.S.-based owners would purchase 50% of the company, with China's foreign ministry coming out to say that companies should decide independently on matters of their operations and deals. So there you go, a lot of moving parts there. Would Elon Musk come into the picture as we discussed previously on the show? We shall see. But let's continue to talk about Donald Trump before we let you go, Chin. Ultimately, it's the big day for him today. He pledged a blitz of presidential actions to end what he calls American decline, telling a fired-up Inauguration Eve rally yesterday that he would crack down on woke ideology and immigration. Now, as we know, U.S. markets closed for today, but what are the possible executive orders that could move markets, and also his new meme coin, Dollar Trump?
Yep. So, I mean, for the executive orders, I mean, now is a time where he walks the talk, right? He has been saying a lot of things.
Nearly 100, I believe, right?
He's promising close to 100, dozens, close to 100, that's what he says. So I think the obvious or the sort of like usual suspects will be on immigration. There's also what I like to watch is the Department of Government Efficiency, the clarity on its role by Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. But I think for the case of investors, you need to note that executive orders are not very robust. The fact that Trump is able to sign them today on his first day of presidency also means that the next president who takes over, once Trump's term ends, can do the same, right? So 4 years later, everything could change again. So it's not really something you want to build an investment thesis on. And speaking of building a good investment thesis, for the Trump coin, I mean, I thought we learned our lesson back in 2021 and 2022, and apparently not. So if you're going to, I won't even call this investor. If you're going to speculate on this, know what game you're playing. But basically, you're buying something which is worth nothing, and you're hoping for someone to pay more for it in the future. And you can see already the shenanigans happening, where the launch of apparently the Melania coin, I don't even know whether that's true or not, but has tanked the Trump coin by quite a bit. So this is the sort of speculative environment you're entering, and this is not investing, this is pure speculation.
I believe the Trump coin earlier today is still at, I think, 9 billion market cap, right? But as we've mentioned, lots of moving parts right now. We shall see how things go, especially after today. Thanks so much for the insights, Chin. That was Chin Hui Leong, co-founder at The Smart Investor. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Before acting on the information on Money FM, please consider if it's suitable for your own investment objectives, financial situation, and risk tolerance.